The medical establishment's worst nightmare just became a reality. From inside the Oval Office, President Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. unveiled evidence that's been buried for decades. The FDA scrambling into emergency mode. Warning letters are hitting every doctor's desk in America. Mothers who've been mocked, dismissed, and silenced are suddenly being vindicated at the highest levels of government. Oh, yes, this is a glorious day. What they revealed about autism rates will shake you to your core. Since 2000, cases exploded by over 400%, from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 31 children. Big Pharma's panic palpable. The mainstream media, predictably, in full damage control mode. But the truth bomb has already detonated. This changes everything, what you thought you knew, so keep on watching. But let me ask you something. If you built up $100,000 or more in investments, do you really want it all riding on the stock market? Think about it. Banks, billionaires, even entire countries loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. That's why I want to tell you about Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to own investment-grade gold and silver, the same kind the big players are buying. And you can actually hold it in your hand or put it safely in your retirement account. You have worked hard to build your wealth. Isn't it time you protected it? Noble Gold is family-owned, trusted by thousands, and ranked #1 in gold IRAs 4 years in a row. Their precious metal specialists are standing by to answer your questions and walk you through every step. Simple, safe, easy. Visit nextnewsgold.com today. That's nextnewsgold.com. It's time to protect what you have built. When you call that number on the screen, 877-646-5347, just tell Colin that Gary said hello. Okay? All right, Colin? I love you, man. Thanks. Okay, so this was, we got a preview of this at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, a beautiful, beautiful event that was put on by Turning Point USA, President Trump. The entire administration practically there. I was wondering, where's the one guy who's supposed to, what do they call the guy who's supposed to, if everyone's gone, he's the guy that's going to be president, right? Where is that guy right now? It felt like everybody was there. Even Trump said the Congress and Senate was there. So he gave us a preview. Yeah, the designated survivor. Thank you, Todd. The designated survivor. Where was the designated survivor? I don't think it was. I don't think the designated survivor was there. Anyway, President Trump gave us a preview at the memorial about what happened today. We got some clips from the press conference in the briefing room with Caroline Leavitt, and of course RFK, Donald Trump, Dr. Oz, and the media meltdown. So let's just check in real quick with the president.
It was Charlie who helped unite MAGA, and you know what MAHA is? That's right, Make America Healthy Again. And tomorrow we're going to have one of the biggest announcements, really medically, I think, in the history of our country. We're going to be doing it with Bobby and Oz and all of the professionals. I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism. Tomorrow we're going to be talking in the Oval Office in the White House.
Oh, yes, and we have the video. First, let's jump to the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, at the briefing room earlier today.
And they want answers. I think women for many years, in fact for decades, Ed, have been confused by the rapid increase in autism in this country, in the childhood epidemic, that is chronic epidemic, disease epidemic that is plaguing America's youth. Women are confused about that, and they want answers to that. And that's exactly what this administration is focused on finding. And before you jump to conclusions based on reports that the White House has not even confirmed, I would encourage everyone in this room to go into the 4 o'clock announcement with some critical thinking skills and with some open ears to actually listen to what the president and his team of outsiders have to say about this. And there will be a number of things that will be announced and discussed. And I think, I know as a mother myself, I speak, I believe, for many mothers across the country who really want answers to what is happening to our nation's children. So again, I won't get ahead of the president, but I think everyone in this room needs to tone down the judgment before you even hear what people are going to say. I think.
And the president already issuing this 3 hours ago on the White House X account, tagging Secretary Kennedy, Dr. Oz, the NIH director, Dr. Bakari at the FDA. The Autism Action Plan, informing doctors and families, FDA will issue physician notice and initiate safety label change on acetaminophen. Research shows a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopment outcomes. Prudent use is needed during pregnancy and for infants and toddlers. HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. Making a therapeutic available, FDA will act to establish the first recognized therapeutic. It's called leucovorin, it looks like, for children with cerebral folate deficiency and autistic symptoms. Following FDA's action, state Medicaid programs will be able to cover leucovorin for autism spectrum disorder. NIH will launch confirmatory trials and new research into the impact of leucovorin. Increasing research investment through the Autism Data Science Initiative, ADSI, NIH will fund 13 projects totaling more than a $50 million investment to transform autism research. So this is huge. Jesse Kelly writing, I have no idea what causes autism, and don't pretend for a second that I do. What I do know, it's increasing, and every single time I hear anyone suggest a cause for it, that person is shouted down and called a conspiracy nut. It's noticeable. Yes. Have you ever gone to a doctor's office with a child, an infant, maybe a young mother? I know I've been through that multiple times with my children. And of course, what happens when you try to question the doctor? Oh, they shame you. They shoo you out of the office. Well, can we have a delayed schedule? Can we? Is there any wiggle room here? No, they say. No, get out. You're a conspiracy theorist, and take your tinfoil hat with you. That's what they do. And even if you question any of this stuff on YouTube, what happens? You get struck and you get penalized. Well, we just reached out to YouTube to find out if they are going to be updating their medical misinformation policy. We're waiting to hear back from their press office. We'll keep you updated on that. But there's so much to climb on to report on here. Of course, MSNBC's Dr. Vin Gupta is already screaming about it. And it feels so much like COVID all over again. You know, when President Trump was laying out different therapies for people, just asking questions and presenting some of the things he had learned about. I mean, they mocked him. They called him a nut job, and it feels like this is all going to happen all over again from this. You know, the medical establishment who funds MSNBC and all the big media, they can't have this out there because it destroys their market value and their product. They don't care how many lives it destroys in the process. Now, where do we even begin here? You know what? I think we should go to this mother. This is similar to what happened in our household when the news hit. My wife and I celebrating this glorious victory.
Considered high function. Hi, my name's Jackie. I'm also extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here and share my son's story. My son is Eddie. He's 11. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum from what Amanda just explained. He's considered high functioning. He was not always high functioning. He was nonverbal till the age 4. We've had quite a hard time to get to the place where we are today. I am just so grateful to President Trump and the entire administration for finally listening to moms who have been crying out for help, for answers for years. I've met so many other moms with children on the spectrum in the 9 years since my son's diagnosis, and they all have very similar stories, and they've all just wanted somebody to listen, to not ridicule them or look at them like they were the crazy people. It's hard when you don't have doctors that take the time to really listen and find out when the change happened and what change happened. And it's just, I've been praying for this day for 9 years, and I'm so thankful to God for bringing the administration into our lives. And I'm speechless. This day is a day I never thought would happen. I thought that we would never have an administration that was courageous enough to look into things that no prior administration had. So I'm just here to express my gratitude, and I am looking forward to what comes from this, and hopefully we just get more answers. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
I guarantee you there are millions of mothers and fathers who are screaming this right now. Okay, so let's go to this moment here. This is Secretary Kennedy 3 hours ago. He is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I want to make that very clear for any of the YouTube censors who could be watching this.
We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. Some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. We are continuing.
What do you think about that? Finally, an administration with the courage to step forward. Let's take a look. Here's do we have President Trump's remarks? Here's President Trump. This is the big announcement about the Tylenol connection.
Increased Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. Tylenol.
And you can imagine Tylenol stock dropping. Here is Dr. Oz on Fox News just about an hour ago.
Gaslit. I think if you take a step back, the real historic reality of today was a very passionate president said enough is enough. We have gaslit women too long. There are problems with autism in this country. It's not just a measuring issue. And so he demanded that we break down the silos between me at CMS, Marty at FDA, Jay Bhattacharya at NIH, and Secretary Kennedy, also undaunted, will not be stopped. I don't care what. There's no political benefit of today.
No, this is not. This doesn't help anyone. Yeah, like if it's not true, it doesn't help. It makes everybody look bad. So donation. Why would you do it? That's my point.
So for that all to happen, and for us to this kind of alacrity bring to the forefront something that was known of last year, a prior administration could have taken steps. This most recent paper came out at the end of August, but the data was based on years of work. We have to take autism and their mothers of these children seriously. It destroys families at times, and we can't afford to have any more children without. President didn't want to wait another day. I think if you take a step back,
he didn't want to wait another day. Here is more from the Dr. Oz, the aggressive approach
today to the autism. In historic fashion and a very accelerated manner, we have a response today to the autism crisis. It is the first of several chapters, but this is breaking news. You've heard some of it. The response to the autism crisis is going to continue to come to you under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, and the president wouldn't have it any other way, as you've heard. The FDA, based on NIH research, is approving prescription leucovorin for treatment of autistic children. Now, if you're following the script, there should be two questions that you have, two questions that should come to your mind. The first is, how will patients and parents get access to the treatment? I'll tell you how. Over half of American children are covered by Medicaid and CHIP, government health insurance, over half. And therefore, because they're covered in Medicaid and CHIP, upon this label change by Marty, state Medicaid programs in partnership with CMS will cover prescription leucovorin around the country. Wow. It's yours, but you have to go to a doctor to get a prescription because they know your child, they know you, and they know the medication. States will also have tools to monitor its use and ensure appropriate utilization. That's important for a bunch of reasons, because we want the right kids getting the right prescription medications. We believe private insurance companies will rapidly follow our lead if they have not already done so. And again, to make sure that this is safe and effective treatment, you need a physician to prescribe the medication because it's on prescription. Second big question. How are we going to collect clinical data to answer the big questions that the president is asking and the secretary insists that we offer? CMS is also issuing guidance to convene states and existing research networks to support NIH and FDA in their research efforts of prescription leucovorin, while also maintaining the privacy of all patients, all health information of our beneficiaries. Collecting real-world data, which is what many of you have been asking us to do in the community, is fast. It is life-saving, and we'll get answers based on what happens over the next few months with this approach. The aggressive approach, and it is aggressive, demanded by the president and by the secretary, have already identified risk factors and opened the door for the first FDA-recognized treatment pathway for autism. Wow. It is the first of its kind, and it wouldn't have happened without the leadership of the president and the secretary. The fivefold increased prevalence of autism over the past 25 years demands a rapid response. The average clinician, researcher, we spoke to many, thought it would take 5 years to get this data. Parents are unwilling to wait 5 years. The president is unwilling to wait 5 years for these results. So the president and the secretary are acting today with this tri-agency move. The administration's bold actions investing in groundbreaking research follow the science. They restore trust, which has been lacking, and they will change the trajectory for millions of American families. Mr. President, God bless you for being brave.
God bless you, President Trump. This is a day we have long fought for. And this, oh my goodness, man. The cheers in our household. Oh my goodness. Fighting for health freedom for so long. Dr. Makari says this is the start of a historic shift in medical culture. Listen.
But we've got to make a difference. This is the start of a historic shift in medical culture. This administration is working together to ask big questions about why our nation's children are getting sick so fast. Too often, medicine is doing small little studies, giving us answers we already knew. But we've got to make a difference. You've given us a charge to identify root causes, and we are not going to stop so that we can end the suffering we are watching. And if you've seen a kid with autism, with severe autism, it's hard to watch. Kids get frustrated, they get angry, they can be crying because they want to speak and they can't speak. It's hard to watch, and it may be entirely preventable. For an epidemiologist, that child is an expanding statistic. But for a child, it can be brutal to have autism. Today, the FDA is taking action to update the label on acetaminophen and sending a letter to all U.S. doctors letting them know about the risks in pregnancy. We now have data we cannot ignore. There's a very large study, the Boston Birth Cohort, with researchers that have, from Johns Hopkins, my former institution, and Boston University, found, quote unquote, consistent associations between acetaminophen in pregnancy and autism. And the Nurses' Health Study with researchers from Yale, Columbia, and Harvard looking at 9,000 kids found that acetaminophen use in pregnancy was associated with neurodevelopmental disorders. And 4 weeks ago, a Mount Sinai Harvard study reviewed all the existing literature and found the overwhelming body of evidence points to an association. Sure, you'll be able to find a study to the contrary. That's how science works. But to quote the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, there is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. We cannot wait any longer. And honestly, there's been this perfunctory, reactionary, mindless practice in medicine. I learned it in medical school and residency. Just treat all fevers, low-grade fevers, treat them with acetaminophen. Why? What are we doing? A study out of Hopkins actually showed that treating a fever can prolong the duration of illness in a young kid. Maybe that's because a fever is a body's natural way of ridding an infection. When my wife was pregnant and delivered our son a few months ago, they pushed her to take acetaminophen for a low-grade fever. She said no, and then they looked to me and I said, absolutely no. This is the start of a...
This is the start. Now, President Trump was asked about this on Air Force One. Trump talks about how vaccines in children.
Getting to announce any link between vaccines and autism?
Vaccines are very interesting. They can be great, but when you put the wrong stuff in them, they don't. And, you know, children get these massive vaccines like you'd give to a horse. And I've said for a long time, I mean, this is no secret, spread them out over 5 years. Get 5 shots, small ones. Did you ever see what they give? They give, I mean, for a little baby to be injected with that much fluid, even beyond the actual ingredients. They have sometimes 80 different vaccines, and it's crazy. It's, you know, that's a common sense thing too. It's like you're shooting up a horse. You have a little body, a little baby, and you're pumping this big thing. It's a horrible thing. So I've always felt that. But we'll be having a big discussion tomorrow about autism.
Getting to announce any link.
And of course, that discussion has happened. Here's one of the moments, one of the great moments in the press meeting today. President Trump shutting down CNN.
Brian, please. Yeah, Brian, please.
Medical professionals have warned.
No. I said, no, not you. You're CNN. You're fake news. Go ahead, Brian. Yeah, Brian.
No, CNN. No, you're fake news. Trump's Tylenol warning backed by Harvard Johns Hopkins research. Mario Fall writing, many critics were quick to roll their eyes when Trump said Tylenol during pregnancy might raise autism risk, suggesting Trump was staying true to form with headline-grabbing statements of dubious value. But Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Columbia, and Mount Sinai all say the same thing, and they've got peer-reviewed studies to prove it. Harvard School of Public Health found that acetaminophen exposure increases risk for both autism and ADHD. Johns Hopkins discovered babies with the most acetaminophen in their cord blood were nearly 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism. Even Mount Sinai called the connection to neurodevelopment disorders strong enough to warrant warnings for expectant mothers. Now the FDA finally agrees, saying the data is too strong to ignore and will move forward with label changes and doctor alerts. Tylenol probably did contribute to autism, however hard it may be to believe such a thing could fly under the radar and cause such a generational epidemic of autism that went unchallenged for decades. So here are some of the headlines that were posted by the White House action plan supported by gold standard science. You can see it all right here. Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Mount Sinai, all of them presented by the White House. Big Pharma attacked me for speaking against it. Listen.
Why do you think we haven't heard more previously about the tie to autism and acetaminophen?
Nobody knows. I don't know. Not only that, when you say it, you get attacked. I was saying something similar, not as strongly, because now facts are on our side. But I was saying it with Bobby 20 years ago, and I was attacked. I said, whoa, what was that all about? I had no idea. you get attacked. I don't know, the medical community, the drug companies, doctors. I don't know what it is.
Well, it's a massive cash pipeline. That's the problem. And President Trump is challenging that right now. Here's more. Laura Ingraham, just 60 minutes ago, Trump takes on Tylenol. Marty McCarty backs him up. Here's more on those studies.
Telling the angle. Dr. McCarry, the president came out strongly against Tylenol specifically, but its parent company standing by the safety. You can imagine the efficacy of the product. Telling the angle, we believe independent, sound science clearly shows that taking acetaminophen does not cause autism. We strongly disagree with any suggestion otherwise. We're deeply concerned with the health risk that poses for expectant mothers, and it's the safest pain reliever. You get the point there. Is correlation causation?
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest study was done by Harvard and Mount Sinai. They looked at 27 studies showing an association. There were 4 against it, and they said, based on the overwhelming body of evidence, there was a causal relationship. Those are the exact words of the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health. So there's been this growing body of evidence. We're just now bringing it to the forefront so that people know when they pop a Tylenol willy-nilly during their pregnancy, they should know most low-grade fevers don't need to be treated.
Dr. McCarry, the president.
Wow. And of course, over on MSNBC, Dr. Vin Gupta, Tylenol use is safe in pregnancy, lowest effective dose. He says, don't listen to the utter nonsense emanating from the highest office in the land today. Speak to your medical provider. Of course, you should always speak to your medical provider. But is this guy ignoring the science from Harvard?
Tylenol research gets better. And just a few years ago, one of the largest, best quality research studies ever done, 25 years in Sweden, looked at siblings, one exposed in utero, the other not, to Tylenol. And what did that find when controlling for genetics, family history, maternal, paternal age, known risk factors for autism, that there was no link. So the best quality research has shown no link between the use of Tylenol in utero or during pregnancy and the development of autism.
President Trump actually seemed to acknowledge this weekend that today's announcement could be wrong. Take a listen.
I don't want to wait any longer. We don't need anything more. And if it's wrong, it's right. It's not going to be wrong. But if it is wrong, it's fine that we have to do it, because we're going to have an announcement on autism.
Okay, well, listen. That's what science is. You investigate, and present your findings. What the president and RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz did today was presented studies from respected medical journals that drew the link. Now, of course, this guy, Vin Gupta, over on MSNBC, decides to cherry pick. He's going to go and lean on the Sweden study, but the administration is going to lean on the other 6 studies that show the other direction. You see how it works? But that's, of course, MSNBC for you. Because, I mean, even if Donald Trump found a cure for cancer, they would be on every network destroying him. That's just how it is. That's how Trump derangement syndrome works. Here's Dr. Dorothy Fink, Acting Assistant Secretary for Health. And she's going to make the point.
As a pediatrician and mom, I'm here today to talk about what this announcement means for the millions of moms and dads who are faced with the choice of whether to take acetaminophen during pregnancy. It's hard to hear information that challenges the status quo. We are sharing this information not to confuse, but to empower parents to make the best choices when taking medications during pregnancy. We are all concerned about the rising rates of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism. President Trump and Secretary Kennedy are dedicated to radical transparency so that patients have the best, most up-to-date information. We are also sharing this information with our nation's doctors, and we encourage you, as always, to consult with your doctor to make the best decision for you. All too often, it's easy to think that medicines we buy without a prescription pose little to no risk for the mom or the baby. As you heard today, pregnant women who need high fever or pain reduction during pregnancy should take the lowest effective dose of acetaminophen for the shortest possible duration. Most women will not meet these indications during their pregnancies. I am encouraged by these developments today because it is another example of our commitment to the American people to leave no stone unturned in improving the health of our nation's children. As a pediatrician...
Yeah, I did not know about the Tylenol link. President Trump taking on Big Pharma in a big way. Check this out.
Being artificial. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism. Because
the Amish. Maha Action posting this 3 hours ago. No president has ever addressed vaccines like this. He says vaccines need to be spread out, and hepatitis B should not be given to kids under 12. When we went to the hospital for our pregnancies, we're like, no, sorry, we don't need that. Okay? My wife doesn't have hepatitis. Ridiculous.
But no,
here's President Trump more.
It's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles, and the three should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate, because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, oh, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted.
Yeah.
There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. Wow. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country.
God. This is a day for celebration. Oh my God, I can't believe he's saying these things. I can't believe the administration is taking it. Well, you know what? These are promises that he made on the campaign trail. I'm grateful. So many millions of Maha moms are grateful today. This is a historic shift, no doubt. And of course, with the C3 rights, with the Trump and RFK Jr. autism announcement today, remember Governor Pritzker signed an executive order trying to stop RFK Jr. from finding the root cause of autism. The Democrats wanted to hinder RFK Jr. from making America healthy. Yeah, this is the guy. And this is the data science initiative that has now been launched.
to the cause. I'm proud to announce today that the NIH has launched the Autism Data Science Initiative to turbocharge autism research, devoting an additional $50 million to the cause of studying autism. Nearly 250 research teams from across the country applied, sent in their applications, and were peer-reviewed by the NIH review panels. The NIH peer reviewers chose the 13 best projects focused on root causes and therapies, with replication and validation studies to guarantee gold standard science. The studies feature a new kind of science called exposomics, where scientists consider environmental and medical factors, nutrition, events during pregnancy, in combination with biology and genetics to answer vital questions about autism. Science like this, conducted in partnership with families and physicians, is the best way to arrest and reverse the autism epidemic.
So massive amounts of money going in to fund this. President Trump to mothers, what he says, do not let them pump your child.
5 times for a vaccine. And it's so important to me to see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby. Even if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just break it up into, I would say 5, but let's say 4 visits to the doctor instead of 1. And certain things I think you should do. We've already taken out and are in the process of taking out mercury and aluminum now. You know what mercury is. You know what aluminum is. Who the hell wants that pumped into a body? And there were rumors about both of them for a long time. But we're having them taken out. We're having them taken out of the vaccines. Hepatitis B, again, that's sexually transmitted. And it's so important to me.
Folks, we are living in a great era right now for health freedom. So if you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So this is not just about autism statistics or medical warnings. This is about power, who has it, who's losing it, and who's been abusing it for decades. When mothers say that their healthy children changed overnight after certain medical interventions, they deserve answers, not mockery. When autism rates explode 400% and nobody's allowed to ask why, that's not science, that's tyranny. So today, Donald Trump and RFK Jr. shattered that wall of silence. They're forcing Big Pharma to admit what they have hidden. They are making the FDA warn about the risks that they've downplayed, and they're putting $50 million behind finding the real answers. The establishment, of course, will call this dangerous. The media will scream conspiracy. Big Pharma will push back. But ask yourself, do you trust the same people who told you the virus came from a wet market? Do you trust the corporations getting rich off sick kids? Yes or no? Let's have a conversation in the comments. And while you're at it, check out our merch shop link below. Show the world you stand for truth with our American Badass collection. Oh, yes, we have a beautiful shirt with RFK Jr. on it. You got to check it out. Shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.